Nobody gets hurt that doesn't need to get hurt, right? Don't let that stuff fester. Don't let it hang overhead. One of the things I want to mention briefly, when I had my first officer-involved shooting, some of this stuff can kind of hang with you. It can come and go in waves. I remember I stayed at home, because this is 2 days before Thanksgiving. I stayed at home and didn't really want to go out very much. Like, just one of those things, like, you don't want to go out and be around people. That was just the way that I was, and I was with both instances. That Friday, I went out because my father-in-law wanted to get some boat supplies, so we went to Bass Pro. And what Friday is that? It's Black Friday. Everybody, their mother, their cousin, their nepson, they were all there. And that did not sit well with me. I had some anxiety, and I recognized that though. I didn't like go, oh, I need to run. I need to go drink. I found healthy coping mechanisms on how to address that. And sometimes that's just acknowledging it. Yeah, I have a little bit of anxiety. I have a little bit of an issue as a result of this. If you acknowledge it, you can start actually fighting those demons. People that choose to suppress and go, oh, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. Everything's fine. I don't have the slightest bit of an issue in the world. None of this has ever affected me, are cheating themselves, and they're cheating their families. They're cheating the people they care about and should love, and the people that love them, because they're not actually addressing those things that are beginning to bother them. Be conscious of that when you go through this. And it doesn't require an officer-involved shooting for you to have that. Hell, it could be an infant death that you worked. It could be just a grisly scene for whatever reason that one sticks with you. Acknowledge those things, address them, recognize them, and embrace them. I've talked about the growth concept. We want to grow. We don't want to be this stagnant pool of water. And if you can grow from a little sapling when you're a baby cop and you just started, and you can become that hardened, massive oak tree, that big walnut tree, that branches extend out, it begins to drop its own walnuts, you can actually have influence and get your own grove of walnuts, right? You can begin to have that positive impact on other officers that haven't had the experiences and the exposure that you've had in this career that allows them to grow, that allows them to avoid the same mistakes that you have made in the course of your duties in your career. They can have some of that wisdom that maybe you had to experience the hard way for them to be able to do something better.
I'm so happy because I'm a gummy bear, gummy bear. Oh, I guess there's only one way out of this.
That wasn't bad at all.
Sometimes you go right from one shit show and you're like, hey, everything's fine. I got through it, I'm good to go, I learned from it, and then you're right back into it again, right? I want to give some perspective, guys. I've spent this whole day talking about, lethal force encounters, getting shot at, shooting at people, having all these horrific things, officers getting wounded, shot, killed. But really, let's look at the statistics overall. Vast majority, this is LEOCA statistics for 2019, these are the most recent ones. Law enforcement officers killed or assaulted in the line of duty. Statistically speaking, the vast majority of the time, out of the 56,000 incidents where officers are assaulted. Now, when we say assaulted, that means they were shot at, somebody may have tried to stab them, somebody did stab them, somebody punched them, kicked them, spit on them, those sort of things. Look at that. 46,000 of them. I mean, the vast majority of them were all personal weapons, hands, feet, fists, right? That's the vast majority. If we're going to get assaulted, that's what we're dealing with. But then we look at lethal cutting instruments, firearms, other dangerous weapons. Those are still factors that come into those. But look at the statistics. When we look at the number of contacts we have with people on an annual basis, which we have about 61.5 million contacts with citizens and law enforcement annually, 91 in 100,000 result in an officer assaulted. It's higher than the average, but it's still relatively rare. 20 in 100,000 law enforcement contacts result in an officer injured. 8 in 10 million result in an officer being killed in line of duty through a violent assault. Very, very low odds, right? And then when we actually talk about actual deadly weapons or dangerous instruments, 2 in 100,000 law enforcement contacts result in actual injury from a dangerous instrument or deadly weapon. And again, because all officer deaths for 2019 were through dangerous instrument or deadly weapon for these statistics, around 8 and 10 million. Okay? So I show you these stats not to scare you. I show these to actually give you an idea that, okay, the odds of this happening are extremely low. It's a very low likelihood. But on the flip side, do you want to play those odds? Are those odds something that you want to gamble with every single day? As somebody who's standing up here who's been in 2 officer-involved shootings, as an agency that's been in how many officer-involved shootings in the last 6 years? 5, 4? That's not necessarily a place that you want to take those odds. Oftentimes with agencies, they have a tendency, playing those odds, to transfer that risk and look at it now, well, it's a low frequency, but it's a high risk thing on there. Because what's probably the highest frequency, high risk thing that we deal with in law enforcement on a day-to-day basis? Pursuits, vehicle operations, just in general. I mean, vehicle operations is the #1 thing. Anybody who's worked the road long enough has had a fender bender, a crash, something go wrong. Yes, I know, Mark, you're looking at me. We've had something go wrong with a vehicle as a result of our actions on there.
I've
We're
had
gonna
several.
kind of focus more on that stuff. Don't get lost in that matrix of focusing on the high frequency, high risk stuff that gets fed to you all the time. Start looking at that low frequency stuff that you may not encounter enough and keep it at least somewhat in your mind so then you're not letting it be forgotten. Now, agencies tend to sometimes with that because we're focused on the high frequency stuff. We're focused on, I don't want, my car's getting totaled. I don't want them hitting pedestrians. I don't want wrecks during vehicle pursuits. So what happens? We put a Band-Aid on the lower frequency, high risk stuff.
12 minutes.
Okay, I should be done that time. We put a Band-Aid on the low frequency, high risk shit. That's not a good thing to do. How do we do that? Some of you may disagree with me, but sometimes we stick to the warrior mindset. What is the warrior mindset? For a mindset, for mental resiliency, it's a great thing. But what does warrior instill when we think about warrior? Video didn't play particularly well, but going in, you're going to war, right? This is what I think of when I think like warrior mindset in law enforcement, right? That's not a good place to be. So let's go back. What is the purpose of law enforcement? Life preservation, right? Bringing order to chaos, these sort of things. Is that necessarily in line with a military ideal? Some say yes, some maybe say no. Look at all this stuff. When we look at the warrior patches and shit that we get into law enforcement with it, the Mandalorian stuff, you can come with me warm or you can come with me cold. When we use a Spartan warrior helmet, where the Spartans literally just would slaughter people. I don't know if that's the appropriate thing to associate with law enforcement. I get the mental resiliency aspect of it, but when we go into law enforcement, we're guarded by things like Constitution. We don't have rules of engagement, we have case law. So where does the guardian mindset play in versus the warrior mindset? These are two completely different mindsets. And this is something that I hope will kind of help settle everybody from what I've been talking about to begin with all these shootings and all this violence and all this stuff. What is the guardian mindset? So for many of us, if you're a cop that works the road, what do you prefer? Proactive or reactive call for service?
Proactive.
Proactive, right? It's fun to make a traffic stop and get dope on a traffic stop. It's fun to drum up vehicle pursuit, right? It's fun to kind of go write a search warrant, go kick a door in. But in law enforcement, what are we when it comes to our use of force response? We're reactive. We're the exact opposite of it. So it almost drives against a lot of our willingness to want to be proactive in dealing with suspects and in dealing with force with people. The warrior mindset works greatly for proactive stuff, but guardian mindset's better for reactive, which is exactly where our use of force matrix falls into things. So guardian mindset versus warrior mindset. Here's warrior mindset, right? We've all heard this one in academy. Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet. General Mattis. He's also the same guy that said it's fun to shoot some people.
Gotta love Mad Dog.
Oh yeah. I mean, the guy's a legend in the military, but let me pose something to you. Do you think if we go into everything with a warrior mindset, and what is our plan? Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody we meet. Do you think that might make it to where we allow situations to potentially devolve until lethal force is necessary? Have we seen officers that have failed to engage through circumstances? Even Dean Keller, we've seen this. They fail to engage and they just keep giving them verbal commands, and then next thing you know, the gun comes out and boom, shots are fired. Because why? The situation's devolved to the point where lethal force is necessary. There was nothing intermediary in there because probably their mindset is, well, I gotta be polite, I gotta be professional, I don't want to engage. Well, what do they revert to? Well, I'm gonna shoot them. because they're at that point of I have to shoot them. We've seen the video of the guy at Walmart in oh goodness gracious, in the wheelchair, motorized wheelchair recently.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
Absolutely not a good shoot. From my perspective, that's not a good shoot.
No.
No intermediary weapons, nothing was even tried, and he had minutes. But what was he doing the whole time? Verbal command, sir, please stop, sir, please stop, sir, please stop, sir, please stop. And then he starts rolling towards the door, and it's just, that, okay, pop, pop, pop. And he shoots the guy. You know, I'm not, again, there's maybe a different way of handling it, and there is. Change your mindset. Don't focus on the fact that you're gonna have to kill somebody. That's not our goal in law enforcement. Our job is control. It's seizure, right? We work on the Fourth Amendment. We're seizing a person when we use lethal force. So I would say, be polite, be professional, but have a plan to control a subject's actions or resistance. If you have that plan to control them, you can handle all different levels, not just on verbal noncompliance or lethal force, everything in between. If your willingness to, they're not gonna listen to your verbal commands, fuck it, go